record this so we don't forget. Great, Samsung user first time. Glad to have you on. Okay, Akadelphia is 3.5 hours from you. Okay, that's great. Cook from Michigan. Cook, welcome. Okay, people are beginning to trickle in a little bit more. So Sandy Express from Maryland. Sandy, it's good to see you on here. Festus from Texas, welcome. We're beginning to have more and more people trickle in now. We're going to give a couple of minutes for people to trickle in. Normally we start at 7. We're supposed to start at 7, but we're going to give a few minutes for people who are trickling in as they're beginning to trickle in more and more. And as people continue to trickle in, if you want to continue to tell us where you're joining us from, LC, Texas, Dallas, Texas. LC, welcome. Wonderful. And if you're joining, it's the very first time you're joining us on this, we do this Zoom call every Sunday and Monday. If it's your very first time, please comment first time in the chat. We are glad to have you. Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Okay, Annie is joining us from the UK. Annie, we are glad to have you. Whereabouts in the UK are you joining us from? Wolverhampton. I think we've had you on before. Wonderful, great. All right. In 2 minutes at 7:05, I think with the count we have in 2 minutes at 7:05, we will begin. Okay. Kimberly, hey Kim.
There's Dr. Natasha.
Okay, Dr. Natasha is on. Kimberly, it's good to see you, and I get a chance to hang out with you tomorrow, Kimberly, so I'm looking forward to that. Dr. Natasha, you've been made my co-host. Thank you for helping me. And thank you very much, Dr. Natasha, for filling in for me yesterday. And I heard a lot of good things about your talk, and thank you for the strong work. Welcome, welcome, welcome. In 1 minute, we're going to be starting. We got a first timer from Toronto, Canada. Welcome to you. Veronica from Grand Prairie. Veronica, welcome to you. Great, great, great. So in under 1 minute, we'll be starting. In under 1 minute, we'll be starting. And wonderful, wonderful. Okay. Again, if you're joining us for the first time, please comment first time in the chat. We're glad to have you. It is 7:05 and I'm going to keep to my word and we will begin. Thank you guys very, very much for being a part our our webinar today. Today is Ariella Aaron. It's the first time. Ariella, it's a pleasure to have you where you joining us from. Okay. All right, we're going to take it away. Thank you guys very much. And where do we go? Okay, let's do this. Let us do this. So, my name is Dr. Dieter. I'm a board certified physician in 2 fields. I'm an internist and I'm a pediatrician. And Thank you guys for being here. And what I want to do today is to ask the question, why are we so sick today? And the answer is simpler than we think. It's because of the way we eat. We eat in ways that harm our body's natural biology. Food is supposed to be medicine, and food can be poison. But it's the latter for most of us. We eat in ways that is poisonous to our bodies, harming two key systems in our body. And those two key systems are the way the body makes energy, number one, and the way the gut functions. Those two things are the reasons why we're sick today. So, what I'd like to do is to examine, help you understand how the body makes energy and how that relates to why we're sick, and how the gut functions and how that relates to why we're sick. So, beginning with the very first entity, how the body makes energy. Our body makes energy dependent on the hormone insulin. Insulin is a very critical hormone in the body. It is the most important hormone. I call insulin the CEO of the body. When insulin is working well, it dictates the smooth functioning of the body. Everything goes smoothly. Now, what is the job of insulin? How does insulin help to secure the body's energy needs? And what is what does insulin do that I call insulin the CEO of the body? This is what insulin does. Every time we eat, glucose is released in the blood. That glucose is a byproduct of absorption. When that glucose is released in the blood, the job of insulin is to mobilize that glucose out of the blood into the cell. Now, in the cell, when the glucose is gotten into the cell by insulin, there's a special organelle here in the cell called the mitochondria. The mitochondria is what we consider to be an energy factory of the cell. If you remember from junior biology classes, the mitochondria was called the powerhouse of the cell. Why is that? Because in the mitochondria, the glucose goes through a complex series of reactions called the electron transport chain, and that results in it's spitting out in the cell, spitting out an energy molecule called ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and that is just simply energy. So that is how insulin secures the body's energy needs. Why is this important? Every cell in the body requires energy to function. The smallest entity of the body, the cell, groups up to form tissues, which group up to form organs, which group up to form system, which forms the whole human. Every single cell in the body requires energy to function. When the cell has the energy that it needs to function, the cell functions well. When the cell lacks the energy that it needs to function, it does not function, it malfunctions. And I say that the simplest definition of a disease is a group of cells, tissues, organs, or system that has stopped functioning well because it lacks the thing it needs to function well, and that thing is energy. So that is why insulin is the most important hormone in the body. That is why insulin is the CEO of the body, dictating smooth functioning of the body. Now, when insulin is not able to secure the body's energy needs, when there is a breakdown in this process of insulin securing the body's energy needs, we call that breakdown insulin resistance. That breakdown is called, oh, what was this? That breakdown is called insulin resistance. Now, insulin resistance is just simply means that insulin can no longer secure the body's energy needs. What causes this? I'm sorry, what is going on here? What causes this? What causes this is actually what we call an, an excess of calories. In today's day and age, we're consuming 35% more calories than our ancestors did uh, hundreds of years ago. And what that is happening is What's happening then is it's forcing insulin to have to go to work all the time, because every time we consume calories, glucose is going to be produced. And when glucose is produced, insulin has to be called to work. So we're consuming. I am sorry. I don't know what keeps happening here. Uh, you guys give me a second. I'm going to close this and just open it up again. All right, we are consuming 35% more calories than our ancestors did. And because we're consuming 35% more calories than our ancestors did, what's happening is that insulin is having to do this job 35% more than it's supposed to do. Imagine if you had a job and your employer told you that you're going to have to work on this job 35% overtime. What's every day? What's going to happen is that you're going to get burned out. And when you get burned out, your efficiency decreases, your productivity decreases. You're no longer able to do that job as good. So that's what's happening. The excess amount of calories has overwhelmed insulin with too much work. Insulin has gotten burned out and can no longer secure the body's energy needs. When insulin can, why does it keep happening? Keep, okay. When insulin can no longer secure the body's energy needs, we call that insulin resistance. Now, what I want you guys to understand is this. Um, there are two ways in which we develop insulin resistance. And coming from this excess of calories that we are consuming, there are two ways in which we develop insulin resistance. The very first is just the very first is just what we call too much fat in the cell. Now, how does that happen? You see, just to give you first a little bit of context of how many calories we're consuming, in a single can of a Coke, they say there is more sugar in a single can of a Coke than you and I, our ancestors, would have consumed their whole life. Another thing is that we are eating about 11 times a day instead of eating between meals, eating multiple times a day. If we went back to how our ancestors ate, our ancestors were never consuming food as much as we were consuming. Our ancestors maybe consumed about 1.5 meals a day. So that's causing an excess of calories. Now, when there is an excess of calories, the body doesn't know what to do with it. When you consume more calories than you're supposed to, the body doesn't know what to do with it. The body takes those excess calories and converts them into fat. A cell is normally supposed to look like this, normally, okay? Now, what happens is when you eat more calories than you're supposed to, it causes the cell to take those excess calories, convert them into fat, and stores the fat in this cell. This fat that is stored in the cell now this cell now becomes fat laden and poses a problem, because remember, the job of insulin is that when you have glucose in the blood, insulin is gonna get that glucose out of the blood into the cell. It could easily do so for this cell that looks normal. But for this cell, if insulin comes and knocks at the door of this fat-laden cell and tells the cell to open up so that the cell could let glucose in, the cell says, "I'm sorry, I got no room in the inn. I cannot let glucose in. I'm filled with fat." If glucose came in, it's not gonna have a place to lay its head. So if glucose cannot get into the cell, it cannot run through the mitochondria to produce energy. You have an energy deficiency. So that's one way in which you have a breakdown in insulin securing the body's energy needs. And that one way is just too much fat, okay? So too much fat in the cell. And the too much fat is coming from the excess of calories that were converted into fat. Now, what happens is this causes a second problem, what I call too much insulin. Too much insulin is not good, and I'll show you how. Now, when glucose cannot enter this cell because this cell is fat laden, the glucose is going to accumulate in the blood. The accumulation of glucose in the blood triggers the pancreas to produce too much insulin. There's a one-to-one relationship between how much glucose is in our blood to how much insulin will be produced by the pancreas. So when this glucose accumulates because it could not enter the cell, it triggers the pancreas to produce too much insulin. And too much insulin is like a CEO gone bad. A CEO who was initially humble, ran the company smoothly, who comes to work one day and he's gone crazy. He's firing people for unjust reasons. He's coming to your desk, says, "You're going to do this my way or the highway." He becomes a bully and a tyrant. Okay. When you have a boss who was initially level headed, running the company smoothly, and all of a sudden that boss becomes a tyrant, you're going to lose your respect for that boss. When you lose respect, when you don't respect somebody, it's hard for you to do what that person says. So you translate that to the cell. Insulin is the CEO of the body. When insulin is running too much, it's now acting like a bully and a tyrant to the cell. The cell loses its respect for insulin. When the cell loses its respect for insulin, when insulin now asks the cell to do the job the cell is supposed to do, to open its doors this wide so that it can let glucose in, the cell is reluctant. It has no more respect for the CEO. Instead of opening its doors this wide, the cell now has its doors this wide out of reluctance. What that's going to mean is that less glucose is going to enter the cell. If less glucose enters the cell, it means less glucose can go through the mitochondria and will produce less energy. When less glucose enters the cell also, what happens is it means that the implications is that more glucose remains in the blood if only little glucose is entering the cell. So more glucose will accumulate in the blood. And the accumulation of more glucose in the blood is a trigger for the pancreas to produce even more insulin. And that even more insulin is going from fry pan to fire. Like a CEO who was crazy this level raises their craziness level to here, the cells are gonna lose even more respect. So that is how you develop insulin resistance through that two-step process like that. And that is one of the reasons why we're sick. So this gives us an opportunity to fix this. If this is how you develop insulin resistance, which is one of the reasons why we're sick, how do you fix this? If we can fix checkpoint one, too much fat, and checkpoint two, too much insulin, you can resolve the energy problem. And so I want to I want to show you a solution that does just that shortly in a second. But when you have insulin resistance, what's going to happen? You now have a deficiency of energy. That deficiency of energy now drives all the disease states because remember, disease is a group of cells that are not functioning well because they lack the energy to function. All of these are fruit of the same tree, insulin resistance. Now, how do we fix the insulin resistance problem? That's the question. If we're saying that this right here, you know, is the way insulin resistance develop, we have two places where we can address. So, how we fix that? I want to talk to you guys about a nutraceutical that helps to go address checkpoint one and checkpoint two. And the nutraceutical I want to talk to you about is called the Feel Great System. And let's talk about this very first product in the nutraceutical. Nutraceuticals are product made 100% from plants but have nutritional benefit. This product called Unimate is made from a plant native to South America called the yerba mate plant. and is rich in a special phytonutrient called chlorogenic acid. And this product can help to fix the insulin resistance problem. I'm going to show you how. It has two properties. The first property is that it has a GLP-1 producing property, and the second property is that it has a fat burning property. Remember, I said that one way in which we develop insulin resistance is because we've eaten too much calories. When we've eaten too much calories, insulin is doing the job of mobilizing glucose into the cell 35% over time. So if you are burned out from your job, one way to recuperate from that burnout is to rest. If insulin is burned out, resulting in insulin resistance, one way for insulin to rest, is one way to to reverse insulin resistance is to rest insulin. And the way you rest insulin is giving it no job to do. The way you give it no job to do is by fasting. And so when you are fasting, what happens is you're not bringing in calories. When you're not bringing in calories, glucose is not being produced. When glucose is not being produced, there's no need for the boss to get up on the phone and say, hey, insulin, you got to come to work. And if insulin is burnt out, then insulin gets more time to rest. So what this product does, it causes the body to produce GLP-1. We want you to fast while you're on this product. Remember, we got to this position because we have engaged our insulin over and over again. Our ancestors ate a meal and a half a day. We're eating 11 times a day, grazing like cows on a Texas ranch. So our recommendation is that the healthy way to eat that supports your body's biological system is to go for a period of 16 hours of fasting. So missing breakfast and have only lunch and dinner. So what happens is that we want you to fast for 16 hours. And so let's say you eat dinner at 7 p.m., you go to bed at 10 p.m., you wake up in the morning at 7 a.m. From 7 p to 7 a, you've already been fasting for 12 hours. We want to help you extend your fast by another 4 hours because the longer you're fasting, the longer insulin is resting from its burnout. And that is what this does. When you consume it, it's made from the sachet in here. In the sachet is a powder product. You just pour the powder into the bottle it comes with, you mix it up and you sip on it. There's some people who are not able to fast without feeling that World War III is about to start. So for those people, this makes it seamless. When you sip on this, it causes the body to produce the hormone glucagon-like peptide 1. It goes to the hunger center of your brain and suppresses the hunger center of your brain and makes you not to feel hungry in that 4 hour period from 7 a.m. till it's time for you to have your lunch, extending your fast. When you extend your fast by 16 hours, insulin gets a chance to rest. It rests, it recuperates from its burnout. The other property is the fat burning property. So this phytonutrient called chlorogenic acid causes you to burn fat. Now, if you remember the way we developed insulin resistance is that this cell became filled with fat. So if this can cause you to burn fat in the cell, when you're consuming this, it goes to this cell and causes fat burning and causes this cell to return back to the status quo. When this cell returns back to the status quo, the glucose that could not enter the cell can now go into the cell. When it does, it could run through the electron transport chain, make energy, and you're restoring the energy issue. Now, the implications of that also are that because the glucose gets into the cell, what's going to happen is the concentration of glucose in the blood is now going to drop. When the concentration of glucose in the blood now drops, a message is sent to the pancreas to say, hey, we don't have so much glucose sitting around anymore. We don't need as much insulin to come to work. You need to lower your tone. So the pancreas now produces a low amount of insulin. And low insulin is like that CEO who was once crazy, returns back to earth, returns back to humility, comes to work, calls an in-service, tells his employees, I've been a jerk for the last 3 months, please forgive me. The employees forgive their boss and regain their respect back for the boss. When the boss now tells them jump, they say, how high, boss? It's the same thing. When insulin now becomes low, the cell regains its respect back for insulin. When insulin says open your doors this wide, the cell says I'll be happy to. It opens its doors this wide. More glucose comes in. So as a result, it helps to resolve checkpoint 2 too. So the Unimate, because of these two properties, GLP-1 and fat burning, help to go reverse the two ways in which we develop insulin resistance: too much fat and too much insulin. And you could now restore ATP. When you restore ATP, the cell now has the energy it needs to function. Things go back functioning smoothly. The second reason why we're sick is how the gut function. The gut's function is dependent on a population of bacteria in the gut. You see, in our gut, there is a population of about 30 to 100 trillion bacteria in the gut. Those 30 to 100 trillion bacteria have this special name called the microbiome, and they live in a 50-50% proportion. 50% of those bacteria are what we call bad bacteria, the other 50% are what we call good bacteria. It's important to have that proportion to maintain the important functions of the gut. Now, one of the very important functions of the gut is to help regulate the immune system. These bacteria that live in the gut, we live in a do for me, I do for you relationship. They scratch our backs, we scratch theirs. We provide them food and shelter, and in turn, they provide us these activities. And one of the main functions of the gut is to help to train the immune system. You may not know this, but 70% of the body's immune system resides in the gut. The other 30% resides in the bone marrow, lymph nodes, and lymphatic. And this bacteria is responsible for training the immune system. When the immune system is well trained, when the gut is healthy, it does what it's supposed to do, helps to defend us against illness. When the immune system is not well trained because the gut is not healthy, the immune system becomes a terrorist. Instead of protecting us, the immune system is now attacking us, and then you develop autoimmune diseases. So remember this 50-50% proportion. There is something we call gut imbalance, which is a scenario where the bad bacteria outnumber the good bacteria. And in gut imbalance, what happens is the bad bacteria may increase in number to 70% at the expense of the good bacteria that are going to decrease in number to say 30%. Now, why does this happen? What causes gut imbalance? You see, gut imbalance is caused by the shortage of food. But wait a minute. You just told me several slides ago that we are consuming 35% more calories. So what do you mean by gut imbalance is caused by the shortage of food? Well, there is a specific type of food that is short in our modern diet today that is causing gut imbalance. And that specific food is fiber. Our foods are so processed, we're not consuming enough fiber. And because we are not consuming enough fiber, there's not enough food for the good and the bad bacteria. Fiber is the food for the bacteria in the gut. Every living organism needs nutrients to survive. And the bacteria in your gut is no different from a lion in the jungle needing nutrients to survive. And because our foods are so processed and we are not consuming enough fiber, what happens is that shortage results in a crisis. Okay. Just to put in perspective, a man is supposed to consume at least 38 grams of fiber a day, and a woman should consume at least 25 grams. The NIH estimates that in the United States, the average man and woman is consuming a shameful 10 to 12 grams, less than 50% of requirement. So that shortage of fiber sets into motion a crisis. That crisis causes survival of the fetus. So what happens in survival of the fetus? The bad bacteria and the good bacteria put on gloves to dwell it out. But the bad bacteria, unfortunately, are the stronger ones. They win that fight. When they win the fight, they say, you know what? We don't have enough food to feed our mouths and the mouths of these good guys. So, they hoard the little fiber that is there to themselves and say, to keep a monopoly on this little food that is there, since we cannot feed our mouths and those good guys' mouths, why don't we increase our army, to 70% so we could keep a monopoly on this food? And that causes gut imbalance. And when you have gut imbalance, the functions of the gut that depend on the proportion of this bacteria become compromised. You start having disease entities like lupus, an autoimmune disease, Hashimoto's, an autoimmune disease, MS, an autoimmune disease, celiac. Colon cancer is now strongly linked to the deficiency of fiber. Now, below at the bottom on here, anxiety and depression, and some of you may be surprised to hear that anxiety and depression is as a result of gut imbalance. Now, but the biology makes sense. You see, there is a hormone we call serotonin. Serotonin is what I call our happy hormone. That happy hormone, did you know that 90% of that hormone is produced in the gut? The other 10% of that hormone is produced in the central nervous system. So, when the gut is not healthy, what happens is that when the gut is not healthy, what happens is that um, this cannot produce its product. Because that cannot produce its product, you're now reliant on 10% to maintain mood and happiness. So, how do you fix the gut imbalance problem? It's simple. You fix the gut imbalance problem by giving the gut fiber. And the second product in the protocol, called the Feel Great System, is something that is a fiber rich product. It's made out of fiber from 7 different plants, and it is rich in soluble and insoluble fiber. So just by feeding the gut with enough fiber, the good and the bad bacteria now have enough food for themselves. There is no need for infighting. It helps to reverse this. One other thing that I failed to mention on here, I talked about how the Unimate reverses insulin resistance, but I also need to talk about how balanced fiber reverses insulin resistance. But fiber, when you consume fiber, it causes your body to rest insulin. That's what fiber does. Insulin got burnt out from overworking. Fiber causes your body to rest insulin. Fiber, I'll depict to you how that does, but fiber also helps to resolve checkpoint 1 and checkpoint 2. The same mechanism. Fiber causes you to burn fat, so you go from this to this, and as a result, you resolve this problem and you resolve this problem. But how does fiber then cause you to rest your insulin? It does so in this. If I eat a plate of lasagna, if you eat a plate of lasagna and I eat a plate of lasagna, and you eat it without fiber, lasagna is a carbohydrate-rich meal. Your blood sugar may do this, 160. And for me, if I consume fiber, let's say I took the balanced product, which is rich in fiber, and I went and consumed the exact same plate of lasagna, my blood sugar is going to do this. And that blood sugar for me may be a blood sugar of 90. So because you produce the blood sugar 160, your pancreas is going to have to call to work more insulin. Hey, more insulin, you need to come to work. So 20 units of insulin is going to be called to work here. Now, because me, I produce only 90, my pancreas is going to call to work a lesser amount of insulin. Maybe you may call 5 units of insulin. If your insulin is burnt out because it has overworked, it's better for you to have a low amount of insulin or call in less insulin to come to work so that more insulin is resting than this. Another way to put it, when insulin is high, that high insulin is acting like the crazy CEO that the employees do not respect. And when insulin is low, that low insulin is acting like the humble CEO that the employees respect. So that is how you can reverse the insulin resistance problem with balance and with Unimate, and you could reverse the gut imbalance problem with fiber, the balanced product. And it is simple, guys. If we can fix the root cause of why we are sick, fix insulin resistance, and fix the gut imbalance, these two things which cause a global energy deficiency, then the diseases that came as a result of that energy deficiency begin to go poof, begin to disappear. So you can reverse those disease conditions. If a car runs out of gas, the car's gonna stop. The car stops not because of intrinsic failure of the engine, but the car stops because it has run out of its energy source. If you went to the gas station, bought gas, put in that car starts again. Why? Because you have restored back its energy. And it is that simple but that profound. So it is with the body. These disease entities we have in modern day society are simply an energy problem. Restore that energy problem and you could reclaim your health again. So I'll end by saying that these two products, the Unimate and Balance, which are part of the Feel Great system, can help you reclaim your health again. Thank you very much. I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Natasha to take it from here. Dr. Natasha, thank you. And Dr. Natasha, I want to thank you again for filling in yesterday and giving us a good talk. Thank you. I'll let you take it over from here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dieter. Amazing as usual. Thank you for explaining everything down to a fourth grade level for all of us to understand. You made medical school down to the fourth grade level. So thank you so much for just explaining to us how important it is, why we're sick and why is our body breaking down and how it's really not our fault. It's systemic and how we can get our life back using a very simple tool. But for now, of course, this is the didactic, but I want to show you lived experiences of people that some of them are friends that I've known, some of them are people that I've helped, and some of them are I learned through this amazing protocol. And so I'm going to share my screen now. Hopefully this will work. I haven't done it on the phone yet, but yes. All right. So I hope you can see this. All righty. So wait, I'm sorry.
Great,
Yeah. So
great.
you're right. So I'm going to go through some of these. There's a lot of wonderful transformations here, but I wanted to highlight some people that I know personally. The very first picture on the upper left and right, his name is Jonathan, and he's actually an ex NFL player here in the Dallas area, and his whole life has been a lot of working out, a lot of intense training. But once he stopped, he gained weight up to over 300 pounds, but he also developed an autoimmune disease, and Dr. Dieter talked about how autoimmune diseases are linked to gut health. And this is not something that is a classic knowledge that most people know, that your gut is directly linked to dysfunctions in your immune system. But he had psoriasis and he developed psoriasis arthritis, which is extremely debilitating, very embarrassing, very painful. And he was in his early 40s and he was introduced to the system. And you can see this is just on day 47. He lost about 40 pounds. But what was even more remarkable was he was able to reverse his psoriasis arthritis. His skin cleared up. He was able to hold a jar again. And he got his life back. You can see the quote on the left. He showed that he was lost physically, mentally, spiritually. But after starting the Feel Great system, he felt this weight lifted off, not just physical weight, but this kind of mental fog that was lifted up. And the fact that he was able to say he woke up like he was 18 again means that his testosterone also improved greatly. On the bottom left screen, this is actually Dr. Dieter's father. And Dr. Dieter can, of course, go more into it, but he is in Cameroon. And when Dr. Dieter started this protocol and saw how much it was helping him and his closer friends here in the US, he sent the protocol to his dad in Cameroon and his family, actually. And his father has been using the protocol since August. And you can see a big difference in his father's, definitely the size of his belly, which represents usually insulin resistance with the belly fat, but his A1C also improved greatly from 7.1 to 6.4. And I'm pretty sure that it's continuing to improve and he's improving his energy as well. And so, the fact that our wonderful presenter has been able to see results in his dad is incredible. And I can also report that my mother, her picture is not up here, but my mother also reversed. She was one of the first people that I shared this with, and she reversed her prediabetes within 2 weeks. Now, Keith is on this call. He's been a wonderful moderator for us. And his story, I never, ever, ever get tired of hearing it. But he's going to give you more details about his foot on the upper left here. And you can see a difference on the left picture in January of 2025 and on the last picture. And what happens in between, Keith will go into it, but just know that Keith has spent a lot of money. It's like the equivalent of a house that he spent to help heal his foot. And Keith is going to go more into that, but it actually took his life for under a minute. And when he was introduced to the protocol, it healed his foot within 3.5 months. Now, John is on the upper right here. And John also had a diabetic foot. His foot wound was likely not as bad, but he had a non-healed ulcer on his foot. And he was also in the process of making end of life care. His mom, or excuse me, his wife told his children that we're going to start to make end of life care. And as you can see, they're both really young. And so when he was introduced to this protocol, John also changed his life tremendously. He healed his foot wound. He reversed diabetes. Of course, he lost weight. He reversed all of the chronic diseases that we're discussing that are linked to insulin resistance, including high blood pressure, high cholesterol, etc. That's just an incredible testament on how addressing the root cause can surpass expensive, very, very, very expensive treatments that are very invasive. So I'm going to go down here to Dr. Kenny on the bottom left here. Dr. Kenny is indirectly how Kim is here on this call as well, but Kim was watching Kenny's transformative journey. He also has an incredible story of surviving sepsis from a ruptured appendix and almost dying himself. And he had a condition called atrial fibrillation, which is a heart murmur. And when he started the system, it not only changed his life with his metabolic health, he also reversed AFib, which is again not something that I ever heard of as a doctor was possible. But his life completely improved. He improved his testosterone, and his wife, who also suffered from PCOS for many years, also improved her PCOS. The young lady on the bottom or the top right, actually, she is a truck driver, and she was on multiple medications, at least 20, I believe. And not only did she get her life back, she was able to get off so many medications. You can see she aged backwards. She's like Benjamin Button because she addressed the root cause. And so she appears much younger than her stated age. On the bottom left here, you can see there's like these collage of skin pictures. The left part just shows this one lady who suffered from psoriasis. And we talked about Jonathan having psoriasis as well. And the skin rashes, the painful, the very embarrassing rashes that come with that and the arthritis. And afterwards, you can see that she was able to clear that up using the Feel Great system. Marla is on the bottom right. She's an amazing, amazing woman. She has an incredible story. She also reversed her type 2 diabetes as well and lost weight. And she was able to help her husband, but she was able to fit into her wedding dress, which is every woman's dreams after many, many years. Nani on the top left here is my friend. He's a pharmacist here in the Dallas area. And I wanted to highlight him because he's one of the kind of the markers of good health. If you were to, point someone out in the crowd that was relatively healthy, he would say, I'm healthy. I work out every day. He does intense trainings and he eats really well and he eats healthy and he's a pharmacist. However, he didn't realize that he had some insulin resistance. There's a lot of people who think, well, I don't need this. I don't have insulin resistance. I'm one of the 7% that do not have insulin resistance. And you'll be surprised, insulin resistance is on a spectrum. So, of course, we showed you extreme cases of insulin resistance, but you can have tiny cases of insulin resistance where it's not as severe, but it is responsible for things like brain fog or joint pain here and gut health issues there. And a lot of people assume this is evidence of getting older. You know, we're entering into our fourth decade and you're starting to feel these things and you think, oh, it's just getting older. But it's not. It's these are signs of a little bit of insulin resistance. And so when he used the protocol, you can see a major difference. He's getting a six pack and he works out even less than he used to. And his wife is one of the very first people that I introduced the protocol to, and that's how he got onto it. Dr. Marla, excuse me, on the bottom, she was able to reverse her diabetes as well. And not only that, she had a condition where sorry, not diabetes, she was able to reverse her high blood pressure. She lost weight. But one of the main things for her, she had long COVID. A lot of people don't realize that prolonged symptoms from infections, whether it's strep or COVID or Lyme's disease, that's again a dysfunction of the immune system, which is gut health related. And so there are people which their immune system is overactive and it starts attacking itself. That's autoimmune. But there are times when the immune system is not clearing an infection very well, and you have these prolonged symptoms from an infection that actually never cleared fully. And Dr. Marla, there's a lot of cases of people with prolonged or long COVID, with the brain fog and the pain and anxiety and all of these things. And she was able to reverse that using the protocol. So that's a huge, huge win for her. This is me on the top left. The first picture was me in residency training in New York, doing all the things that I thought was the right thing to do, but always going back to my old weight and feeling defeated and feeling like a hypocrite being a doctor and telling people about good health, but not being able to maintain that myself. So I endured obesity and depression, anxiety, as gut health issues, a lot of these skin issues, skin tags, and I was able to reverse it once I discovered the protocol. I did fast before, but when I added the protocol to it, it absolutely improved my fasting results and it 10x my results. And that's when even my smart scale was saying that I started to age backwards and I gained muscle. So it was life changing for me. And the top right picture, this is Dr. Dieter's twin sister. She is also in Cameroon, and Dr. Dieter shared the protocol with her as well. And you can see that she absolutely had an incredible result with this, with the weight loss and improved energy. And of course, Dr. Dieter can speak more to her story, but her and her dad are really, really enjoying the benefits of the system. The bottom picture is someone who's had an incredible health journey. She was on oxygen for over 2 decades, and you can see her reversal of all kinds of diseases, like type 2 diabetes, of course, the skin tags and the dark patches that are associated with insulin resistance, and also mood disorders, improve triglycerides, you name it. So she was a marker of the metabolic dysfunction that we just discussed. And with reversal of the root cause, she was able to reverse everything and get off multiple medications. Cody and Dr. Dieter, excuse me, we have our presenter here, Dr. Dieter. When I introduced this protocol to him, Dr. Dieter was also a marker of good health. He was running several miles almost every single day. He ate well, and he was able to implement things that he learned on his own before using the protocol, before learning about the protocol. And he was able to reverse quite a bit, but he still had a little bit left over. And so after using the protocol, he was able to actually shed at least 20 pounds, if I'm not mistaken. And he improved 14, excuse me, 14. And he improved his energy, slept much better. And now his entire family is on it, including his wife who's still breastfeeding, his child who's almost one now. And so he's a marker of improved health because, again, it's not about having the worst health outcome that you need to use this, even for people who believe, or if you're a weightlifter, if you're a strength trainer, if you're a personal trainer, whatever it is you are in health, if you have other symptoms that you're not quite sure could be related to insulin resistance, it is worth to try this. Dr. Kenya again is showing how his belly fat improved. And the bottom right picture, you can see it's also helpful for acne. No one would ever assume that acne is due to insulin resistance, poor gut health, but it is. And so people are spending lots and lots of money on treatments for acne. And so this is a huge, huge improvement on this young lady's skin health as well. And we'll just keep quickly going down. Cody, we just wanted to highlight this picture because you can see he had major, major belly fat as a result of insulin resistance. And he was able to reverse that without the excess skin. And so he didn't have a nip tuck, he didn't have gastric bypass, and yet he was able to reverse it using the protocol. And when you reverse it using the protocol, you actually increase your growth hormone, you increase your muscle mass. So Cody was able to lose all that weight without excess skin. And Rose on the right, bottom right, and she is a nurse, and her husband suffered from diabetes. Her A1C was not able to be measured on the scale, but she was able to reverse her diabetes with this protocol. So we're going to quickly go down to the last couple of them, and I just wanted to highlight my friend, Dr. Midge, is on the upper left. She's a pediatric endocrinologist. She was able to reverse her prediabetes. Her dad had diabetes and was going into dementia as well. And she was able to help him reverse. And I pointed her out because she is literally the specialist for diabetes as an endocrinologist. And even then, as I mentioned, as we mentioned, Dr. Dieter, myself, Dr. Midge, they don't teach us how to reverse the root cause in medical school. But with a simple protocol, Dr. Midge was able to help her dad, help herself, and help many, many others as a result. David is someone that I was a stranger to me. He's on the bottom left. And he saw me on social media and he decided, I tried everything else. I have diabetes, I have obesity, I have all those things you're mentioning. And he was doubtful, but he started the protocol. And within 4 months, his doctor said, you are a marker of good health because he reversed his diabetes, he reversed his high blood pressure, he reversed his obesity, he reversed everything. He's even his tinnitus. This is something that ear, nose, and throat doctors will say is not reversible. It's this ringing in the ear that's extremely debilitating for those who suffer from it. He was able to reverse that. His skin improved. His beard is now thicker, and he's reversing backwards. And he says, "I'm no longer pre-diabetic." I'm no longer diabetic. I am post-diabetic. And then finally, we have Coach Greg. He has an incredible story. He had the unfortunate experience of watching or witnessing his mom code right in front of him, and he attempted CPR on his mother, but she passed away in front of him. And a few months later, or even a month later, I believe, he ended up in the ICU under the same conditions as his mother. And he was told he had advanced kidney disease. He had very, very uncontrolled high blood pressure and hypertension. And he saw this protocol and he was also doubtful. But he said, I'm going to just do some other natural things first. I'm going to do CMOS, black seed oil, you name it. None of those things are wrong, but it weren't giving him lasting results. So finally he said, you know what? I'm just going to try this system. There's nothing to lose. There's 90-day money back guarantee. And within a week, his high blood pressure was normalized. He cried. And now he's one of the biggest advocates. And as you can see, he also reversed all his other chronic diseases. And so he is a marker of what can happen when you give yourself the chance to start a system that will absolutely address the root cause. You're not under the spell of the system that caused us to be sick. This is reversible. You just have to take action. Thank you so much, Dr. Dieter.
Thank you so much. I want us to highlight I want us to highlight Kim, and I'm going to just put up a picture here really quick of Kim. Just share a screen of Kim's before and after. And Kim, please, could you tell us your own story? What life was like before encountering these metabolic game changes and what life is now.
I sure can. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we could.
Okay. So, yes. So I've always been one that loved to work out, loved to run. Share a lot that you do, Dr. Dieter. I tried intermittent fasting. I did all the things. And for some reason, I stayed on the left of that picture. I had a lot of autoimmune diseases. I called myself an autoimmune nightmare. Hashimoto's thyroiditis, aplastic anemia survivor, IBS, PCOS, and kind of the list goes on. And I never got any answers from my endocrinologist of what I could do to decrease my inflammation. And I tried, gluten-free diets. I tried all the things and nothing worked. And then I was, always looking for solutions. I call myself a supplement queen also because I tried so many supplements that just didn't work. And I saw Dr. Kenny on live on TikTok, and I watched and watched and listened and watched. And I was Dr. Natasha's nurse, and we worked together. And I told her, I said, you need to check Dr. Kenny out and what he's talking about, um, you know, in regards to fasting, in regards to inflammation, some of the things that she was dealing with, I was dealing with, and we would chat back and forth about it. And we started listening and decided I tried the protocol, and I had some of the protocol and I gave to her, and she tried it and she was like, wow. And I said, yeah, I said, it really works. And so it has put my autoimmune diseases in remission, except I still struggle with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. But my labs have looked better. My cholesterol is normal, triglycerides normal. And I feel good. I feel like I got my life back.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you. That is wonderful. And it's amazing that something as simple as this, you know, can restore hope and give you back life and give you the opportunity to experience true health to the fullest. Thank you so much for sharing that story with us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let Keith wrap it off for us. And Keith, if we'll add you to the spotlight to wrap it up for us, that will be great.
Well, as a former type 2 diabetic, and I was type 2 for 25 years on 15 medications, 6 injections of insulin a day, um, got an autoimmune disorder that caused me excruciating pain and unable to walk, foot wounds that wouldn't heal. You saw that picture, the foot wound. That second picture where that was after 6 months of management. And that was to the tune of $180,000 to try and save my foot. And that was as far as it went. I drove 45 minutes each way to get hyperbaric chamber and then wound vacs and knee scooters. And in 3.5 months, it it's like it was never there. And I don't know if any of you are struggling with not being able to walk. It puts you in a pretty rough place. And when I was able to get back walking, it it truly changed my life. In the first 2 days I was off insulin. The first 2 months I was down 65 pounds and my depression was gone. Um, as far as skin tags, my back looked like a minefield. They were everywhere. And those have all gone. My cardiologist said my AFib's gone. She sees no reason that it would ever come back. My foot doctor is utterly amazed, says I'm a walking billboard. I like the word walking in that. My, anytime I show that picture, everybody's like, I can't believe you still have your foot. I was that close to getting it removed, and nobody wants that. And so if you're on the fence, get with who brought you to this call. It is it it will change your life. It's because somebody cares about you enough to present this in front of you. Dr. Dieter does an amazing job teaching. Dr. Natasha, always good to hear from you. You know, the time is now. You're not going to reclaim your health the old-fashioned ways. I mean, I was off all 15 meds in 3 months. I'm down almost 100 pounds now. I'm building muscle. I get to experience my grandson is which is what put me on this path. There's no time like the present. There's not enough time. Whether you think there is or not, there isn't.
Eh, Thank you very, very much for sharing this. And your story should give a lot of people hope that you can truly reclaim your health. It's simple because why we're sick. We're sick for two simple reasons. And thankfully, those two simple reasons can be addressed and restored. Kate, yes, I echo what Kimberly says. We love you and thank you for sharing this. And you give us hope. And you're one of the reasons why a lot of us physicians have joined this mission to help as many others to have a similar story to what you have. So thank you. Dr. Natasha, I want to thank you for equally your service in this mission in helping spotlight this. You brought me to the knowledge of this, and it's been something that has become a mission of mine, just as it was a mission of yours, and is the mission of many of us right now. Keith, Kimberly, you see, good news is contagious. Do you guys agree? Good news is contagious. When you have something good, it's hard to keep it to yourself. When something good happens to you, you want to tell others. And this is what this is. This is contagious good news that we want to tell as many people as possible that there is hope and they can reclaim their health. And so, if you're here today, you were invited here today, and you have a loved one who is sick or you're struggling with any issues with your health, let Keith's story give you hope. Let Kimberly's story give you hope. Let the stories of the people you saw in the testimonies give you hope. You could take action and take over your health again. It is our mission that in the year 2026, we want to impact the health and lives of at least 100,000 people this year. And you could be one of them. And we're always looking for people to help join this mission. Uh, Kid is on our mission. Dr. Natasha is on our mission. Kim is on our mission. There are many people who want to share this contagious good news with others. And we invite you, if this sounds like something, a mission worth being a part of, join this contagious good news mission spreaders. We want to have as many people help us take this news to the world. So we're looking for people to join us. And if that interests you in spreading the good news of hope, talk to whoever invited you. And if you yourself needs the hope that these two products can give you, as Keith said, don't wait around. Take action. You can reclaim your health again. We do these calls every Sundays and Mondays at exactly the same time. And if there's somebody who you wish could have been on this call today but was not on, invite them on Sunday and Monday to come in here, to come in, listen to us. We also do this call every Thursday to serve the people in Africa and the people in Europe. So our Thursday call happens at 11 a.m. Central Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. We use exactly the same link we've used today to serve Europe, the Europe and the African and the African group. So if you would love for someone who is a loved one in Europe or in Africa to join in on this call, or if 11 a.m. Central Time or 12 p.m. Eastern Time is a time that you're equally available and you would love to invite somebody here in North America to be a part of, we invite you to. Thank you guys so much for being a part of tonight's call. And the message is a message of hope. You can reclaim your health again. And the message is this is contagious good news. Help us spread that. Thank you and good night.